I'll start with Dune, because since that was a little bit fresher. Yeah, and I have to say it's kind of my top thoughts are here. The kind of first things that come to my mind. It's a lot of movie. I mean, it's 2 hours. What's it? 2:35, almost 2:40, something like that. It kind of feels its length at times, for sure. It feels like they're really stuffing a lot into this movie, which it is. It's a big story. Obviously, the Clark, what's the guy's name? The Herbert Clark or whatever. Herbert something. Herbert Jones. Fuck, I don't know. Let me look it up. Frank Herbert. God, I was almost there, but no. I haven't read a word of those of that series. I couldn't even tell you how many in the series there are. Obviously, we had the 1984 film from David Lynch, which actually Roger Ebert listed as, I think, the worst or second worst film of that year. And yeah, a lot of people are very on the old film. It's like, ooh, you either like it or you absolutely hate it, absolutely despise it. I don't get that sense here with this new one. This one generally, I think, has gotten good reviews. Last I checked, it was in like high 80s, low 90s on Rotten Tomatoes, which is actually about average for Denis Villeneuve. It did drop a little bit, 84, which is fair. Again, there's a lot going on with that movie. So much that happens in that movie. It's kind of hard to keep it all straight. I definitely could not. Again, from the trailers, I was like, I don't have a damn clue what the story's about. And seeing the movie, it's like, okay, I generally got the sense. Okay, so you have this family who's like a house of something or other. I've got the Wikipedia page up here for the original novel just because I couldn't find the author's name. But it's like Atreides? Yeah, Atreides, that one. Because Atreides, there's Arcturus, and there's one other name, the bad guys or whatever, their house. Anyway, so you had one house ruling this planet, which is all about spice, and the spice is like super wealthy, or like super liquid or whatever. As far as money, it's like it's super. You get super rich off of it if you can sell it and stuff. And they say something about space travel, like it fuels space travel, which they briefly touch on, but we don't really get a big sense of that yet in this first film. And yeah, this one house has been doing it for years, to the point where their species has kind of almost like shifted from being exposed to this desert planet for so long, and they're kind of freaky. And then this new family moves in, and they want to do the spice now, or they've been ordered to do the spice by this emperor character who, kind of like Star Wars, you never see him, at least in this first chapter. We get the sense that this emperor character is coming. You're going to figure out who it is. They're going to cast some, I don't know, probably sizable actor in it. I don't know who. I don't know the stories. I don't know if it's an older emperor or a younger emperor who they would go with, but whatever. And you have Paul, who's the son and the heir apparent to the taking over the house when his father dies. He goes along for the ride, but he's got his mother has got some stuff like witches or something. They go into it quite a bit, but it's really tough if you're coming in like me, totally out of the cold to this film. Yeah, it's I don't know. It's a lot to take in and stuff. But yeah, stuff happens on the planet. Pretty soon there's the threat of an all-out war, and there's a lot to this movie. There's also a lot of characters in the movie, and it's not easy to keep track of all of them. Especially there's one point in the movie where a lot of characters are suddenly off screen, and we have no idea what happened to them. And I don't want to like look up the book or anything and cheat, because I'm like, okay, I kind of want to figure out what the in the sequel or whatever, I want to find out who comes back. Hopefully, at that time in the movie when it comes on or whatever, not months ahead of time from publicity and everything. But you kind of can only help that so much. Anyways, but yeah, it's all all the characters and stuff. I can kind of run down really quick. So Timothée Chalamet, he does a pretty good job in this as Paul. Rebecca Ferguson, yeah, I was kind of surprised because she's not in the trailers much. She actually does have a pretty sizable role. I don't know. Outside of the Mission Impossible movies, she's never really landed a huge impression on me as an actress. and she's serviceable here. She's good. I wouldn't call her great. I wouldn't call it a spectacular performance. I don't know. It's all right. Same goes for Oscar Isaac. He's kind of there, and he brings some weight to it as an actor and stuff. But yeah, Josh Brolin, who kind of pops up here and there. Dave Bautista pops up really sporadically here and there. Zendaya, who is kind of only in the beginning, and then she does show up closer to the end. Yeah, and I don't know. You get the sense with her though that every time she's on screen or every word of dialogue of hers, it's important, and she's going to be a character that's going to have a bigger role in the further films. Let's see, Stellan Skarsgård I skipped over because his appearance is, I think, supposed to be a surprise. I mean, everybody knows. Generally you can look it up. You'll know he's in the movie, but who he plays and stuff is a little bit of a surprise. And yeah, I don't want to go way too much into that one. Jason Momoa's there, of course. Javier Bardem shows up pretty briefly. And again, his is very sporadic as well. So yeah, again, it's a pretty big cast here. And it's, generally, as an ensemble, they do well. I gotta say, the cinematography, we kind of all been talking about off the top. Yeah, definitely that's a easy nomination that's going to happen. Again, unless this movie completely tanks at the Oscars, but I don't see it happening. I think there's so much well-being that's been brought up by Denis Villeneuve in the past. Effects, I think, is another one where it could easily win. Funny enough, those are the same two that Blade Runner 2049 won, another film from Villeneuve. Yeah, and I can see like the score is going to be an easy nomination. Editing could very easily get in there. I don't know. Yeah, and I'm, usually I'm like, okay, Hans Zimmer, he's always good. This one, I felt like he really dug in. He got some fresh material out there for a score. I mean, he also actually did the score for No Time to Die. And that one, it's a good Bond score. It's serviceable. It brings in the theme when you want it to. Brings in, actually, we'll get into that one, but it brings in some cues from some other movies where you're like, oh, okay, that's a nice surprise. I can't tell you which film, or else it probably ruins it if you haven't seen it yet. But we might need to dive into spoiler territory with that one. It has been out a little longer, but no, I was impressed. I mean, genuinely impressed with Zimmer's score here. I really liked what he did here, and the music is memorable. It's definitely one where I can see a lot of people loving the soundtrack for years and years, and going back to it and saying this is like up there with Interstellar, Dark Knight, Inception. A lot of his more recent favorite scores or whatever. Yeah, so that really impressed me. Yeah, costume design, as always, is good with these kind of sci-fi epics like this. And yeah, definitely is not just a couple things here and there. It's like there's a lot going on with costumes and stuff in this film. Production design's another very easy one that's going to get in there. Sound, I would say sound is also one that's going to get in for sure. Yeah, so again, this is going to really dominate in the tech categories and might even, I'm not going to say full on go like Gravity and just sweep, virtually all of them, but it's going to do well. It's going to do very well. Let's see, yeah, then screenplay is going to be a little shaky. Any acting categories are going to be shaky. Director, I'm close on putting Denis in. I think he's very, very close. Again, I don't know. The one I'm kind of looking at actually for director right now that I might drop is actually Paul Thomas Anderson. We were just talking about him, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure. That director's branch kind of does what it wants. So, and Villeneuve, Villeneuve. I've been forgetting that V. He's been on the radar for director lately. I mean, obviously he got in at the for Arrival. He actually got nominated at BAFTA for Best Director for Blade Runner. So, and obviously, as we saw, we've seen over the years that more international voters have been really helping, especially like somebody like Anthony Hopkins last year, determining, some of those nominees and winners. So I wouldn't actually say it's 100% impossible for him to get in. I think I would put him sixth. I'm hanging on to that Asghar Farhadi or like one of those, again, international directors. An international film director, Pedro Almodovar, also the third one I was looking at, Sorrentino for Hand of God. Yeah, I'm on that track, baby. I'm not going to miss it this time. I feel like I don't know. Again, we need to have a little bit of a sense of it coming, though. It needs to get a BAFTA nomination. Whichever one of those gets in for BAFTA, or if at least one of them does. If it's more than one, I'm screwed. But we'll see. But yeah, I'm definitely going to be watching that one. To see if he can get in. And yeah, picture feels like, yeah, it's probably going to happen. And generally that's also with it now being a solid 10. I can see it making the list for sure. All right. Yeah, so that's as far as all that stuff goes. Yeah, as far as the story goes, again, it's there's a lot going on. It's kind of hard to again, unless you know the source material well, or if you generally look up the plot details and stuff ahead of time, even then you might be a little kind of scratching your head. There's a couple moments here and there where I'm like, okay, what's this doing in the movie? It's like it's a little, I don't know. There's a scene, actually we didn't mention her, Charlotte Rampling kind of plays this kind of witch character as well. And again, she's very sporadic in the movie. Kind of shows up once, twice, and then that's kind of about it. I don't think she's in more than 2 scenes. But that whole scene doesn't really feel like it goes anywhere, at least at first. I mean, I guess it's part of the thing with the whole witches and with the mom and stuff, Rebecca Ferguson. But I don't know. Generally, it felt like that's something you might have even been able to cut and not actually lose all that much. There's another scene later on. Yeah, it's a little over halfway through where they kind of... I don't know. It's kind of hard without spoiling everything, but it's like they end up at this one spot and there's a little action scene there, but it's like, again, generally feels like that's kind of filler, to get to the ending and stuff. Yeah, and it's not too much of a surprise, I think, to some people. For me, it was like, I don't know. It's kind of weird. Because obviously Warner Brothers and everybody, they want to set this up as a Star Wars, a Lord of the Rings. This one of these epic series that's just going to take off and make huge money, do well at the Oscars, be a big, kind of cultural spot and stuff. And I don't know, definitely it does ring more toward Fellowship of the Ring than it does the original Star Wars, I think. Definitely as far as like the length goes and as far as the number of actors in it and stuff, it feels more in that vein than it does something like the original Star Wars, which was a little faster, a little more to the point, a little more obvious in who the villains and good guys are. This one, I don't know, they get it fairly, you get it fairly easy with this one, but there's still there's some chance for some betrayal and stuff, and characters who might be a little more gray and characters who might be kind of like that. But yeah, I don't know. It's not on the. I wouldn't put it in the same class as Fellowship of the Ring. It's easier for me, and I was young too. But seeing Fellowship of the Ring for the first time, it's easier to get into that story. It sets up the whole mythology of Middle Earth and everything really, really well in that opening 7-8 minutes, whatever it is, where they do the flash or all the ancient stories. So it's like how the ring came to be, the War of the Ring early on, and how it passed from the person to person to person, and so on and so forth, where it ends up, as the story begins and stuff. That's definitely, I think people, filmmakers definitely look to that as like a go-to for, okay, we've got kind of a big mythology. How do we wrap it up in a shorter package? There, that's kind of the poster child for that. And Dune, it attempts that. It doesn't. It's not as successful with it. It's not exactly like Lord of the Rings. They don't show like the beginning, like the first people who came to this planet. Akaris, whatever. I'll see this one again at some point. So the names and stuff, all the planets and houses and all that, it'll come to me. Kind of like Game of Thrones. It's like that one, I didn't immediately know who all the characters were immediately, but it clicks over time, So I think it's the same deal here. But yeah. So, they didn't go into that much detail. They didn't show it, in that exact same way. But it's still, again, it's a salvageable job as far as kind of setting you up with the basics of what you need to know to just, keep watching the movie. Otherwise, you just need to keep rewinding that part over and over again until you get it. Kind of like a test or something, but no, it's not quite that bad. Anyways, but yeah, and then generally, like I said, the action scenes when they come, they're fine. It's not an action movie though. It's more like a sci-fi, adventure story in many senses. So you can't blame it that there's not an explosion every 2 minutes like a freaking Michael Bay movie or something. But yeah, and then so generally, I was really entertained, I think, by the first half. The second half definitely got some spots where it started to really drag, and where it felt like, okay, we're kind of doing the same thing, maybe not the same thing plot-wise over and over again, but it's like, okay, and then plus it's like, even as the second half goes on, we're still introducing plot threads, we're still introducing new characters, we're still introducing this and that, and it's like, oof, it just, again, after a while, it just really, really does pile on, and it's difficult to again come out of this and think that it's something you've mastered, where it's like 100% I can name this again, unless you know a lot going into the movie. Anyways, so and I'm not sure if maybe they just announced this today, but I guess they're doing at least a second film. But I don't know. I almost feel like you almost do need to. This was today. They officially greenlit Dune Part 2, scheduled October 20th, 2023. Okay. And Hans Zimmer will continue to do the score. Yeah, that makes sense. Villeneuve coming back. Optimistic about a sequel. Blah, blah, blah. I don't know, nothing straightforward. Well, I mean, it's kind of early on, too. I mean, you have to go and shoot the damn thing, which I'm sure, like this, it took a while. Probably, months and months of principal photography and stuff. So, well, I don't know, 4 months of principal photography, but then you got all the visual effects and everything, so... Yeah, you can't. These aren't movies you do overnight, especially something like Dune, which has this kind of, again, big source material and stuff that you have to respect and go back to and honor and play around with and everything. It's not easy to do this, and I got to commend the screenwriters for doing as good a job as they did, and for going in and tackling this material. Definitely, as you can see from the original film. I haven't seen it myself, but the reaction to it, it's definitely something where it's maybe easier to get wrong than it is to get right. And I think, largely, they got this one right. And again, it's a film I'll go back and watch. I think on the second, maybe even third viewing, once kind of knowing what I'm going into and stuff, it will make it easier, I think, to catch everything. See all the small details that maybe I missed the first time, and all the characters and everything. So. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to what they do with the second one, and if beyond that, maybe even a third one, depending on how they want to do it. But I think it's an 8 out of 10 for me. Again, there's definitely spots where it's a little slower, and there's spots where it's a little confusing, and confounding, and a little all that stuff. But generally, I think it's a good watch. It's definitely something I would recommend seeing if you can in the theater on a bigger screen. If you've already seen it on HBO, okay, but I don't know. I just definitely think all the backgrounds and everything that are real in Jordan and some of the other places they shot, yeah, definitely go and experience that on the big screen. It's really neat. Okay, then we've got No Time to Die, and again, it's going to be tough to review this one. I'm just going to pull up Wikipedia page in case I need to. But another long movie. This one was like almost 245. I mean, it's a long movie, but yeah. And I'm a big James Bond fan. Kind of leading up to the film, I kind of wanted to go back and started to rewatch a couple of them here and there. The one I'm glad I did go back and watch. It's not like 100%, the one you need to see going into this. That would be Casino Royale, which I still attest is the second best Bond film of all time. I would just behind not just behind, but Goldfinger. I think Goldfinger's the best. Actually, if I can pull out my phone, I wrote down I ranked them all. I think right before I saw the film, I ranked them, and then I wanted to put this new one in. I'm like, it was kind of tough where to put it, and especially too because I've kind of gone back on it. I'm like, I don't know. I was originally thinking 8 out of 10 for this one, but it's in retrospect maybe it's closer to a 7. I don't know. It's kind of tough. So it's not perfect. It's not Skyfall or Casino Royale, both of which I loved. Skyfall I actually rewatched over the weekend. That one is really good. Really, really good. But I would say the one you got to rewatch, though, if you're going to see this one, is Spectre, if you haven't already rewatched it or whatever. Spectre, really, there's a lot that you have to remember from Spectre in this movie. And I was really kind of surprised, because Spectre wasn't great. I think I reviewed it at the time, but just really quickly recapping that one. So it's like the first half, I would say even the first almost 2/3 of the movie, okay, maybe not 2/3, but like the first like hour 30, whatever, really good. Like a great James Bond film, has everything you want in a Bond film. Good opening sequence, decent villains, particularly Dave Bautista in that one as the kind of henchman character. He's probably the most memorable of that one. And everything decent, really good chase sequences, if not great. It's like, woo, that's what you want from a Bond film. And then it's like there's a certain scene, I think I can go into more detail now than I did at the time, but there's a scene where they have to go to this hotel room or whatever to track down Mr. White's like last location or something, whatever. And it's like the film just comes to a halt, just hits a brick wall, and I'm like, all of a sudden it's like, oh, the energy just drains out of that movie. And all of a sudden you're like, wow, this movie really just, all the momentum just died in that scene for me. And it's like, it didn't really pick up after that. There's a really good fight in the train, the last fight scene between Dave Bautista and James Bond. That's really good. Fun to rewatch that one. But after that and everything with Blofeld or whatever the character's name was before that they were trying to trick you on, with Christoph Waltz, it's okay. It's not great. And yeah, especially the end, like the last action scene where he has to go back to the old MI6 stuff. That was just such a tacked on, like, oh, we've got enough time. Let's go back and add some more. Let's add another 20 pages of the script when it really did not need it. Or you skip the stuff in like the desert or whatever it was, wherever it ended up. You skip that stuff and you go to the MI6 stuff, whichever. But plus, I hated the fact that they made Silva, the bad guy from Skyfall, they made him connected to Spectre, or they at least implied it, which I fucking hate, because the best Bond films, at least early on in the series too, the best one was Goldfinger. You know why? Because it had almost nothing to do with the other ones. It could come up with its own story, its own villain. It didn't have to link in with Spectre or any of the other stuff going on in the other two or the ones after it. It just did whatever the hell it wanted, and it was great. And yeah, there's a lot of plus and minuses to this new series, the 5 films with Daniel Craig, because they are very much connected. And even of those, Skyfall again felt like the most disconnected of them, because he didn't have Spectre running around. And again, that's one of the reasons why it's one of the better ones, if not the best one of the new ones. But yeah, I still say Casino Royale. Casino Royale, I mean, yeah, it holds up. It really holds up. It's a great one. But yeah, I'm a little critical with all the hyper connectivity with the newer films, and definitely that's a big downfall for No Time to Die. Again, with all the stuff, all the connections with Spectre, which I barely remembered, all the stuff where it's like you have all these characters who were in at least one film before or whatever, almost all of them come back, and it's like, oh, okay, so it's, kind of adds up after a while. There's the reason why it's 2 hours 45 minutes. Yeah, and it's kind of a deal with that. Yeah. And it's tough. It's tough to do films like that, where you got to stuff so much in and do so much mythology. Obviously, the Marvel films can do it really well, but with this one, since it's only 5 films and everything, yeah, they don't pull it off as well with this one. Anyways, so I don't know. I feel like I'm a little rambly here with this one, but again, I've had a little more time to think about this one. I've got a lot more history with Bond than I do with Dune, so you can indulge me here for a little bit on that part. But and also too, the other thing is the movie opens with Bond kind of saying like, "Oh, I'm going to settle down with this Léa Seydoux Bond girl," and it's like, why would? I'm sorry, nothing against her in Spectre, but I barely remember her from Spectre. This is the one he's going to quit the service for. This is going to be like the Diana Rigg of On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Hell no, hell no. Go back and watch that one. And definitely, I mean, a lot of people I think have after Diana Rigg got popular again after Game of Thrones. I mean, all hail, because she's awesome in that too. But man, you go back and watch her in On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and she is, without a doubt, beautiful, seductive, but also can hold her own, can save Bond if he's in trouble. She is what you want from a Bond girl. Her, Barbara Bach, there's a couple other ones, but yeah, those are the Bond girls that you want. Carol, I can't pronounce her last name, from For Your Eyes Only, also I think falls into that crowd where she can handle herself as well as be just a bombshell on screen and all that. And Lea Seydoux doesn't fit that. She's kind of just there. and she obviously, as we've seen in the past, she can be a really great actress too, but it doesn't really call for her to do a lot in this movie besides like cry and stuff. She spends like half her screen time crying, unfortunately. But yeah, I just don't think they did a great job building up that character. And yeah, I didn't feel like we had earned that kind of level with Bond being like, this is the one I'm going to go with kind of deal. We hadn't earned that the way we did with Diana Rigg. We hadn't earned that the way we almost could have with somebody like a Barbara Bach or somebody like that. But I don't know. Yeah, so that was kind of a problem early on. The opening sequence is super long. I mean, it's kind of two opening sequences before you get to the opening credits. But it fits. It's the longest Bond film yet, of course, with 2 hour, 45-minute runtime. I don't know. Otherwise, some stuff I'm also a little critical of. I was really unsure with the Lashana Lynch character, because I really want to go back to Captain Marvel. I really want to spotlight her. There's one scene with her. It's like her first big scene with Brie Larson. And Brie Larson, Academy Award-winning actress, always turns in a great performance, can do the action movies as well as the dramas, as well as comedies, like 21 Jump Street and everything. Lashana Lynch does fucking circles around her as an actress in that scene. Lashana Lynch absolutely just pulls your attention in that scene. Absolutely, 100%. So when she got cast in this, I'm like, yes, I want to see more of her, because she's good in Captain Marvel as far as the rest of her scenes and everything. But that first scene, she leaves an impression. She's like, yeah. I'm like, this is an actress. I mean, not, and again, Brie Larson's great, but it's like, yeah, Lashana Lynch was acting circles around her. She was absolutely just the center of that movie when it came to that stuff. So it's kind of a shame that they didn't really know what to do with her in this movie. It's too bad, because she's really like spotty in the first half. She gets a little bit more to do in the second half, but they want her to be an agent, but she also can't be a great agent. She can't be better than Bond, even though she's the new 007, which is not a spoiler. They announced that like 2 years ago now. It's weird because it's like, okay, because the whole idea is if this is Craig's last film and they're going to carry on with a new character or a new iteration of Bond or whatever, or maybe do a spin-off with her, it's like you have to be able to follow that character. You want to be able to enjoy that character, at least earn the respect of that character enough to the end of the film where you're like, okay, I want to see more stuff with her. I want to see what her further adventures are. And outside of maybe a couple moments here and there in the second half, they don't really earn that here. It's like, again, they didn't really know what to do with her. They want her to be snarky. Okay, she's a little snarky in some of her early scenes with Craig. Because she, there almost has to be that, because she is 007. I mean, I'd be disappointed if they didn't. You've also got to deal with the fact, okay, she's a woman, she's African-American woman, or in this, just black woman, since she's not, originally from America, whatever. I think she is British in real life and everything. So there's a little bit of that going on with the whole, the new, and the new world versus where Bond grew up. It's like, okay, the only black people in Bond up to that point were like the Quarrel from the first film and all the villains from Live and Let Die. And it's like, otherwise it was kind of like, just what it was. But there actually was one in On Her Majesty's Secret Service. It was, one of the really cool supporting character. I like him. But yeah, it was like, here it's like, okay, it's the new age where, it's a little more inclusive, we're a little more like, okay, everybody can get a chance to shine here and stuff. And here she is, and it's like, again, they just don't really know what to do with her, and it's a shame. And just based off this film, if they did a spin-off with her, I would be, okay, I'll see if it works, but I don't know, because it's like she's not badass enough. She's not incompetent enough to where you don't want her to succeed. It's like, I don't know. And the film just doesn't know what to do with her. I'll tell you who they knew to do with, though. Ana de Armas. Oh my God. I have to say, undoubtedly, best part of the movie was Ana de Armas' stuff. Absolutely 100%. Unfortunately, she's only in it for like 6 minutes, and then she's done. And I was like, as soon as she says, "This is my stop," which is like her last line, or I'm like, no, come on. And the rest of the movie happens. You're like, bring her back, bring her. It's like a chant in the crowd, but it doesn't happen. Oh, I was so disappointed because her character, hers is a character they should have. I mean, obviously they would have had to extend it out, but what they did with her character, they should have done with the Lashana Lynch character. That's what they should have done. She should have been, oh, at first she's a little incapable. You're a little nervous with her. You're like, oh, I don't know what's going on. But then she comes through and she is capable. She can fucking take you down. She is awesome. She knows what she's doing. It's like, oh, I wish they had done that with the Lashana Lynch character. But they don't, and it is the way it is. But hats off to her, because I mean, obviously we all I think the first film I'd actually seen her in was War Dogs, and I remember I was like, yeah, she's a pretty face and everything, and everything like that. And then eventually Knives Out comes out. And I'm like, oh, okay, so she can also be like an actress. Like she's not just gonna be a pretty face and a pretty body on screen. She's gonna be she can be capable of that. And yeah, it's really great to see her in retrospect. Because obviously in this film, like her first scene, you see a lot of side boob and stuff. It's like clearly they're kind of playing to that crowd, and I'm not arguing because she's a gorgeous woman. But yeah, it's like, and then you look at Knives Out, and it's like there's almost like nothing sexualized about her through the whole movie, and that works. I mean, it can, and yeah, she can play both, and I love that. And that's great that she can do that as an actress. And obviously, a lot of actresses can do that. I would say nearly all actresses can do that, but to do it to that level is it can be tough. And it's also the roles you're given, the films you're doing, all that stuff also plays into it. But good on to her that she can do both. And yeah, again, she's the highlight. She's the best part of this movie. I mean, it's almost not quite. But it's almost worth going to see it again just to see those scenes. It's that good. It is that good. All right, who else do I want to wrench out? Oh, talking about weaknesses, though, too, I gotta say, Rami Malek, unfortunately, kind of like with The Little Things, he's another weak element to this movie, which is too bad, because I was looking forward to him being a villain in this. Obviously, he's terrific as the good guy, the kind of hero of the story and the main point of the story in Bohemian Rhapsody. He won an Oscar for it and everything. And here I'm like, okay, but he also has that characteristic. I haven't seen the Mr. Robot series, but he's got that look where it's like he can be a darker, more mysterious character and everything. And he's given that here, but the screen time is not there. The plots and the whole, and again, it doesn't have to be like Silva. It doesn't It doesn't have to be world domination you're after, or Le Chiffre, or some of these other more recent villains. Doesn't have to be world domination. And this guy is not exactly after world domination, but it's up to that kind of almost tier. Obviously all the Bond films in the past, or Bond villains in the past, really wanted global domination and everything. But, and most of the time when they just wanted that and there was nothing else to the character, the film very much suffered. Moonraker's a prime example of that, where the villain is just such a yawn, and everything. I mean, the guy can deliver dialogue like it's nobody's business, whoever the actor's name. But wow, yeah, that's not a great film, and especially his villain is just dull as dishwater. Unfortunately, Rami Malek is not much better than that. Again, he's got some good speeches, he can deliver them well, but you just really do not get a sense with this character that he's like this one of these ultimate bad guys that Bond has to go up against and stuff. No, I just wasn't there, and he wasn't really given that much. It's very much like what they did with Blofeld and Spectre, where it's like, okay, he pops up at the beginning, or early on in the movie, or whatever, and then he's just absent for like an hour of just nothing from the villain, and then it's like, oh, then the villains, all that stuff is saved for the third act, but it doesn't really work. I mean, it can work. Silva was introduced halfway through Skyfall. And then he was almost in every scene after that, but still, like, that worked. And Javier Bardem is really great as that villain. Le Chiffre, even he gets, a point early on where, okay, you get his introductory scene, and then he's absent for a while, but still, you get the sense of that character and what he wants and what he's doing. With this one, I didn't know what the villain wanted. I didn't know what he was doing. I didn't know why he wanted to involve Bond. Not until, like, the last, 20 minutes of the movie. And yeah, that's not a strength. No, that's not how these work. No, that's not great. Okay, who else do we want to talk about? Okay, now yeah, it's been talked about with Bond how this is Daniel Craig's last job and or last film and everything. And I want to get back to Craig because Craig, I definitely want to highlight in this because maybe in another year he'd be maybe not a front runner, but he would be a candidate for Best Actor. That's how good he is in this movie. But anyways, but I'll come back to it here because one thing, regardless what they do with Bond, please, 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 MGM, Universal, Amazon, whoever's running the boat from now on, keep Naomi Harris, keep Ralph Fiennes, Rory Kinnear, and Ben Whishaw. They've been in the last several films. Please keep them. They are killing it as those supporting characters right now. Ben Whishaw has always been great as Q, and I really liked him here. Ralph Fiennes, really good as the new M, and I like him in this a lot too. Naomi Harris, she's not given as much to do in this one, but she's great. And she, again, especially after Skyfall and stuff, yeah, I want to see more from her. And yeah, Rory Kinnear as well. He's just, again, he kind of pops up here and there, but yeah, it's serviceable as Tanner. His character kind of came in with like the Brosnan ones and stuff, but still, I want them, please, to keep those actors. Please keep them. Even if you don't have much for Tanner to do, keep the other three at least, please. Because, yeah, they all do a really great job through all the films. No qualms with them whatsoever. They all do their jobs, and they all really are terrific, terrific actors. And yeah, that's, I mean, no matter what they do going forward, please, 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 please keep that. Keep them, please. I want to see them come back. Anyway, but going back to, I think, yeah, the centerpiece, the one I haven't talked about yet, is Daniel Craig. And I have to say, I kind of, I don't want to say grew up with this as my Bond, because I was into the Bond films, actually probably about a year or two before Casino Royale came out. That was the first one I saw in the theater. That was, the first one that kind of was my active Bond as the films were coming out and stuff, while I was a fan of the series and stuff. So yeah, in a way, he's my James Bond. Obviously, I still say Sean Connery's the best. You're probably never going to top Sean Connery. Craig, I mean, even out of the gate with Casino Royale, I'm like, yeah, he's definitely a top tier Bond. And as the films have gone on, I think he's gotten better and better at it. Maybe minus Spectre, but he just as an actor, you can kind of tell he's kind of sleepwalking through that one. But he is on board for this movie. He absolutely, every last frame, Craig is delivering the performance of his life in this film, and it is such a joy to watch. And it's, I mean, I can't argue this. I can't, and I can't, without giving too much away, this is the most emotionally involved, I think, as a Bond actor I've been with a character like this. Connery, he's really fun, suave. He can beat you up and everything. Craig can do all that too. And especially here after Casino Royale, which, it has, some more emotional moments. This definitely has some more emotional moments. Even Skyfall has a little touch of some emotional moments with Bond. You see, him kind of going from that kind of, whatever spy, still tough and everything, but then everything with Vesper happens, and you see the chink in his armor, the armor, you've stripped it of me, and all that stuff. That line is really weighing by the end there, when you're like, now he has to put his armor back on, and now he has to know what he's going into every time. And yeah. And you get that sense through the movies here. And now, with this one, it kind of toward the beginning, he's back to the way he was in the end of Casino Royale. And then, stuff happens in the movie. He has to put that armor back on again. And he really has to do that. And with this one, it just the emotional journey that Bond goes through in this one and everything that happens, Craig is up to the challenge. And he absolutely is terrific in this. And again, if you look back, you actually did see Craig get nominated at BAFTA for Casino Royale. And Casino Royale actually, as my screen goes dead here, did extremely well at BAFTA that year, actually. Got I think it got a film nomination even, it got a ton of stuff. But obviously, being from Britain and being a British creation and stuff, you kind of have to expect that. Now with the new voting system and everything, I don't know if this one does anything at BAFTA. Maybe it gets visual effects. They don't do song, but... music, sound, I mean, maybe. I mean, I don't know. It'd be tough. I mean, hands down, I'd love to see it. At this stage in the race, not having seen Denzel or Will Smith or any of the other potential nominees, if he gets in at BAFTA, I'm going to be happy. And beyond that, it'd be nice. It'd be nice to see this one out of nowhere get a Best Actor nomination. I do think, outside of Benedict, Will Smith, and Denzel, it's kind of a loose field right now. It's like, okay, we can see Peter Dinklage come in if as long as Cyrano still lands, and stuff. Obviously, it's been screened, and we know it's like 80% Rotten Tomatoes. But yeah, generally, it's been liked. Leo, I have in there as a really weak fifth because I don't know what kind of if that's even going to be close to Best Actor material for him, or like if he's going to have any scenes that are going to lend himself to that. Craig has actually quite a few scenes that lend to a Best Actor nomination. I mean, right away, the ending of the last few minutes of the opening sequence, there's a really, really great, few great shots with him where he doesn't even need dialogue. He just everything that he's thinking ahead, and what has happened in the past, it's right there, and it's really great. And then obviously, when you get into the third act and stuff, he does a lot of terrific stuff. And again, it's maybe I'm being a little optimistic here because action stars like Harrison Ford and all of them, outside of a couple instances, Clint Eastwood, Steve McQueen. I was like, who, all these other big action stars in the past never really got their due from the Oscars. A lot of comedy actors too, of course, but. So it doesn't really happen, that often. But I don't know. Obviously, we're at this stage in the race. A lot can happen, but man, if Daniel Craig actually, by some miracle, starts showing up on some of these lists for Best Actor, I'm not gonna be upset. He dominates this film. He's terrific. Anyways, what else do I want to say about it? I mean, I like I said, I like the score. The cinematography was actually really great. Linus Sandgren, an Oscar winner for La La Land, did a really good job shooting this movie. I would mention Hans Zimmer doing the score there. I don't know. Generally, the action scenes, I didn't love them. Like, there's nothing on the level of like Skyfall or even Casino Royale here for me, or even Spectre on that level. I mean, the opening sequence I think has some of the more stunt heavy stuff going on. Then after that, okay, there's a car chase. I mean, the stuff with On the Armist, that stuff is really good action scene. And then there's a cool little car chase that happens toward the start of the third act, or at the start of the third act, wherever we're at that point. That's good. But I think definitely the end sequence, which is a lot of running around and shooting people and stuff. And there's actually one long take that is really, really well done with that. That stuff, it's good. Kind of, you almost feel like you are playing the old Nintendo 64 GoldenEye for a minute there as you're following Bond, just taking out bad guy after bad guy after bad guy, and all that stuff. So, it didn't blow me away as far as action scenes and stunts and everything go, but it's still, for Bond, it's like, you come to a Bond film, you get what you expect, and it does deliver on that front, absolutely. Let's see, anything else? Oh, we haven't talked about the director, Cary Fukunaga, who did, Beast of No Nation was probably the one, I think, before this that I was like, okay, that's the one I remember it for. But I think he did a really good job. Obviously, Beast of No Nation, I haven't been able to go back and watch that one just because it's kind of a difficult watch. But, he did a terrific job with that film, and I think he did really good with this one. Especially since he had like Danny Boyle and a few others that kind of last minute kind of a lot of switching around going on for director and stuff, and all that. But I think they did a good job with this one. I mean, it's a good film. It's uneven. I didn't even mention the stuff with Christoph Waltz 100% could have been cut. I mean, really does not add up much to the plot. I mean, there's a couple obviously kind of bigger things that do happen, but whatever. It's something where it's like you almost feel like they could have done something different with it without having to drag him in. Generally the villain's plot is very meandering and kind of confusing, and you don't really know what's going on there until like later in the film. So at that point you're like, okay, but it's like you almost wish there could have been more done with that, or at least more stuff going on with that. There's also one really dumb thing they do with this kind of newer character who's introduced, and they immediately say this about this character, and it's like, well, it's it is the other thing, And it really, I mean, they try to like build up the suspense when it's like, oh, okay, so when there is actually a revelation with this character later on, it's supposed to be like a tug of your heartstrings or a big like pull out the rug from under, and it's not. We all know what it is early, so yeah. And they, I mean, they even left in a couple lines of dialogue where you're like, okay, don't even bother with the it's not this, it's this thing that happens with that. Don't even bother. I think if you've seen the film, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, that I was not a fan of because it's like that's just unnecessary. Yeah, and then otherwise, of course, the only other stuff I would say about it gets into spoiler territory, like big time spoiler territory. Um, I don't know. I mean, I don't really know if I need to go into it at this stage because it's been out for like what 3 weeks, so there's probably still a couple people that haven't seen it yet that probably do not want it spoiled. But okay, I gotta say it. I gotta say it. So yeah. So if you haven't seen it yet, then go ahead and end the video here and come back later or whatever. But anyways, I do have to say again, as somebody who not grew up, but was introduced to this series at a certain point and everything. Um, I was probably like 9 or 10 when I started watching these movies. I very much grew up with the original 20 Bond pictures before Casino Royale, kind of being like, this is Bond, So when Casino Royale and a couple of these newer films started kind of breaking the rules, I kind of, deep down, I kind of had a problem with it. Definitely with Casino Royale, I had problems with it early because I'm like, okay, they don't open it with the gun barrel sequence. That was already, and I don't know why that bothers me so much. But like Skyfall, Quantum Assault, it's like none of them open with the gun barrel thing. I'm like, it's tradition. You got to do it. And Spectre was the only one that got it right 100%. This one, they do it, but they don't have the blood coming down. It's like, oh my God. It's like you did the effort of doing the barrel sequence again, where it should be at the beginning, not at the ending, like fucking Skyfall does it. Casino Royale, I could, at least in retrospect, they explained the origin of it, which is fine, but I don't know. Why didn't they do it in Casino or Quantum of Solace? Except maybe they did it at the end. I don't remember if they did it at the end or not. But yeah, with this, it's like okay, then Spectre did it, and it's the gun barrel at the beginning. The blood comes. I'm like, okay, this is Bond now. We're here. It took them 4 movies, but they got it right. And then in this one, it's like, okay, they're going to get it right again, but there's no blood? What? Again, if you're going to go to all that effort, do it right. But yeah, and again, there's going to be a lot of purists of Bond out there who probably will not like this movie for more than that. Obviously, they're not going to like what they do with Bond at the end. They're not going to like what they do with certain other characters, which you don't do in other movies. I mean, some of them sometimes get a little close to danger, but what happens with some of these characters, you don't do that, And I remember just again when I was sitting there in the film, I was like, but that doesn't happen. I'm like, you don't do that with that character. What? No, you don't. No. Reverse that. You don't do that. It's like, yeah, there's several things that happen here. Anyways, but yeah, and then yeah, there's like I said, all the newer films kind of broke the rules with that, like with the gun barrel sequence and with Bond not quite being as quippy, which they gradually worked into the series as it went on. But obviously Bond's character has to grow, so I get why they did that from a dramatic standpoint and everything. But yeah, I think the only like quippy Bond line from Casino Royale is the part where he's like, "The world's gonna know you died scratching my balls." It's like the only great like quippy like. Connery would say that line, maybe not in that same taste, but that's like the only one that kind of stuck in my mind. I remember telling my mom that because we went to see it when I was like 11 years old at the time. I'm like, it needed more of that. It needed more quippiness. It needed more of the classic Bond. But obviously, then years have passed, and I look back on it now. I'm like, no. What they did was great because it's a relaunch of the character. It's a brand new Bond, obviously new actor and everything. So yeah, even though I walked out of this film. And I have to admit, I was, from the purist perspective especially, I was bothered. I was really bothered by some of the stuff they did. And I didn't leave the theater very happy. Yeah, I did not leave the theater very happy. But, again, I thought about it. I'm like, well, remember when Last Jedi did a lot of stuff different from Star Wars? And I remember at the time, I actually really liked it. And I still, to this day, I still say, don't hate me too much, but Last Jedi was my favorite of the new Star Wars films because they broke the mold a little bit. they kind of fucked around with the mythology a little bit. They're like, hey, you have 7 other, including Rogue One, you have 8 other Star Wars films you can go back to if you want to see, stuff repeating over and over again. And that, obviously, like like Bond, like Friday the 13th, like all these other favorite film franchises, there's something, with, okay, it's good to kind of keep it the same. It's like we kind of, again, like, or Godzilla is another one where it's like, you go into the movie, you know what you're going to get. When you get it, you enjoy it. It's kind of that deal. Kind of like, other people have made this comparison too, but it's like having that recipe that you really, really like, or having that that dish or whatever, comfort food. It's like, it's what you go to, what it's going to be while you're making it or while you're ordering it or whatever. So when it gets there and you start eating it, you're like, this is what I wanted. This tastes good. For me, it's Buffalo Wild Wings. But yeah, it's like, I know what I'm getting every time, and when I get it, I enjoy it, and I like it, and it's never let me down. And it's, that's what a lot of people like in the franchise. Even today, something like Fast and the Furious kind of really aims to that crowd. The Marvel movies definitely aim to that crowd, where you're going to get, okay, some stuff here and there that's comedy, but also good action scenes, but also a lot of, mixing with other movies and stuff in the Marvel franchise. So yeah, so it's... yeah, as a purist, I walked out of the movie, I was upset, and then I thought back, and I'm like, well, I didn't have that complaint with Last Jedi. I was actually kind of glad they did something different with it, because especially for me, Force Awakens, especially leaving the theater with Force Awakens, I was like, wow, that was literally the original trilogy, like a best of compilation, just with the characters being older and introducing newer characters. It's like, that's literally all it was for story and stuff, and I was a little disappointed in it. But then Last Jedi comes along, and it's like, oh, here, let's twist a couple things around. Let's play with it a little bit. And at that point, I was ready. I'm like, yeah, let's play with it. And yeah, Casino Royale was one of those films that came out and said, okay, we're not going to do as much as Last Jedi did, but we're going to tweak a couple things here and there. We're going to just do a little bit of an extra, something with this recipe this time, whatever. And again, early on, I was kind of, no, don't do that. You don't do that kind of deal. But I got over it. And I think a lot of people that don't like Last Jedi also need to get over it. It was 4 years ago. Get over it. Whatever. But still, yeah, with this one, again, as I left theater, again, I was in that mindset. But as time has gone on, even just a few hours with that one, I was like, you know what? This whole, 5 films, they have been separate from the original Bond films. So it's okay if they do that. I mean, they killed M at the end of Skyfall. So, obviously that's another one where I kind of, even with Skyfall, I remember I was maybe, at first a little like, oh, wait, you can't kill M. But then I was like, well, the whole movie kind of leads up to it. So you don't really, it's not a surprise. It's not a, we gotcha moment. This one, it doesn't really do that 100%. But yeah, with that one, it's like, okay, it makes sense, what they were doing there. And it makes sense that it would lead up to that. And I couldn't really be too upset at them for that. But this is going on a lot longer than I thought it would. But yeah, that's my whole point was with this one. It's like after a while, I kind of just accepted it and said, you know what? These movies have been kind of like their own thing since Daniel Craig started. So if they want to end or have some things in this last one be a little different, you know what? They've already done it. So it doesn't really, it's not hurting as much as it feels like it is actually hurting, It's kind of like, we always say, it's like I don't know if it's really theory. For me, it feels like fact. It's like, if you like burn your hand on a stove or whatever, that's not the right example. It's like, if you like, I don't know, like something happens, like you kind of like jam your finger in the door or whatever. It's like, it's not really till you look at the finger that the pain actually kicks in, right? It's like, there's certain things like that. Or like if you scrape your knee or something, it's like, it's not till you see the blood that you're like, oh, that's actually painful. It's like, it's kind of that thing. It's like it's a mind trick kind of thing like that. I don't know. So I don't know. It kind of feels like that. And a couple more things really quick. I did like when they threw in nods to the older films. Like there's a really good moment where they kind of pay respect to all the different M's through the years. I didn't quite see Bernard Lee, but it's like there's one I'm like, nice they threw that in, because there's one actor who played M, Robert Brown, who was in it for like only a couple films anyways. But I'm like, oh, he was fine as M, and they didn't give him as much to do as like Bernard Lee, who was there for so long, or obviously Judi Dench, who I think is second best. It's debatable. It's I can respect either you liking Judi Dench better or liking him better. I mean, it's close. I mean, they're both, different kind of M's or whatever. But yeah, that was really nice. There's one really good beat to an action sequence that's right out of For Your Eyes Only. Really, really good. I like that touch. And obviously, there's a lot of parallels, as we mentioned. Again, that is kind of spoilery to say this, because then you can kind of connect a couple things. That's On Her Majesty's Secret Service, which I still say, other than maybe License to Kill, it's the most underappreciated, crapped on James Bond film that's actually really, really good and all that. But I think, generally speaking, though, I think over the years people have come around on that film and said, oh, wait, it's actually really good. Kind of like with License to Kill. I can't really say they're underrated anymore, because I think most people have come back on them and said, yes, they're good films. At the time, they were really dumped on, when they came out and right after. Yeah, they're both, I mean, excellent, excellent Bond films. Even if it is George Lazenby and he's not Sean Connery, If you had to do it over again, would I wanted Sean Connery in the role? Yes, but I still accept him. I still say he did a decent job at playing Bond. And he only had the one shot, so it's like you kind of, when he's lower on the list for everybody, it's like, yeah, it makes sense why, because he only had the one shot and he was fine. He was, I'm still scratching my head over the line of "this never happened to the other fellow." It's like, yeah, we all can boo at that all we want, but anyways, but no, again, go back to that one. Diana Rigg and even Telly Savalas' Blofeld was pretty good. The henchwoman, the Fraulein Bunt or whatever, she's a chilling supporting villain. Yeah, go back, watch that one. It's true. It's 100% true. And like I said, as she is Diana Rigg as Tracy is absolutely one of the best Bond girls. Absolutely, I would say even. Okay, it's kind of tough because you got Ursula Andress, who's terrific. I would say aside from her, she's probably of the early Bond girls the best one. Yeah, hands down. Anyway, and then obviously when they ended the film and the song they play over the end credits, yeah, it's kind of tough not to be like, okay, that's kind of, when you're doing everything this way, it's kind of perfect to do it that way. There is one callback line that Bond delivers in kind of his last moments and stuff, where he's, has dialogue and everything, like one of his last lines, where I'm like, okay, the next line is going to be this, and it was that, and it was a little obvious, but yeah. Again, that's one that ties back into that film, so spoilers again for that. But yeah, all right. I don't know. Yeah, again, I'm really. I mean, in a perfect world, I would say I don't do halves when I do scales and stuff, like on a 1 to 10. In a perfect world, I would say 7.5, because there's enough good stuff in it, like Ana de Armas and all that stuff, that really does make it worth the price of admission, and really is like, yes, this is one of the better Bond films as of late. I mean, not as good as Skyfall, not as good as Casino Royale for sure. I would say not as good as like GoldenEye or License to Kill. I don't know, I could go down the list if you wanted me to, but we'd be here another 45 minutes, and I really don't think I have it in me. So, I don't know, we might come back to that. Maybe after a few months, and after we figure out what they're doing with the next Bond film and stuff, or what they want to do with it in the future, because they do leave it kind of in a spot where you're like, okay, we can either like be 100% done with this, or we can kind of open the door and say, okay, well, what do we want to try to do? Do we want to try to do a full reboot? Because after the way this film ends, you can try that, which I really hope they don't do, because that means in all likelihood they're going to recast M, they're going to recast Moneypenny and Q, and I'm like, fuck you. And I'm not saying other actors can't do it, but just the way these three have really clicked, I want them to come back. I mean, especially in this film, there's they don't share a lot of screen time together, but even then, the chemistry they have together, it's hard to beat. It's hard to beat that. It does feel like Desmond Llewellyn, Lois Maxwell, Bernard Lee from the originals. It absolutely feels like that. And again, those characters, almost all respectively in each of the films, share almost, when they're all on screen together, almost zero screen time. But they're part of the ingredients. They're absolutely core parts of the ingredients for making the whole thing work. So I would just be like, oh, when you have such great actors, why would you just piss it away just with another fucking reboot, which every other franchise seems to do like every 10 years, like Batman. which I don't know. In all honesty, we can talk about that too, because just in recent movie news. Because yeah, the Batman trailer, it's fine. It's a good trailer. I liked it a little better than the first trailer. I was really not wowed by that first The Batman trailer. But this one, it's like, okay, there's a little more personality going on. You get a little bit of a sense. I'm still not on the train for Robert Pattinson being Batman, especially not for him being Bruce Wayne, because he just looks like Edward Cullen when he's Bruce Wayne. But as Batman, I'm like, I can see him, I can see, kind of like with Daniel Craig maybe. Maybe he gets a little better as he goes. Maybe I just get more used to it as time goes on. We'll see if it's, I don't know. I'm hoping it's just like a flat 2-hour movie, kind of like the original Burton ones were. I really hope it's not like the last, like Dark Knight Rises was like 2:45, Dark Knight was 2.5. I really hope this one is not that long. Maybe it's just because I'm just coming off of Dune, which is 2.5 hours, No Time to Die, which is like 2:45. I'm just really kind of, it's like, it's such a commitment every time you go to see a movie at this point. It's like, literally, you're going to be on your ass for 3 hours or longer with previews and stuff. So I'm like, oh boy. I don't know. And Eternals is right around the corner, and that one's almost as long or longer than Dune. Oh my god. I mean, don't get me wrong. I sat through Irishman 3.5 hours, and I loved it. There were a couple, as I mentioned in that review years ago at this point, a couple of years ago almost. Yeah, there were some slow parts in that one where I'm like, okay, this really does not need to be 3.5 hours. But I was there, and I'm fine with the movie being as long as it wants to be. But just so many in a row that are this long, just it's a little draining on me. In all honesty, I don't know. I'm looking. Actually, the next one I think I'm going to see actually is Halloween Kills. I think a few of us are going to go see it on Halloween, which I did that with the last one. And funny enough, I was up in Fargo, North Dakota, and it was like just me and like 3 other people in the whole big theater. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if they do if it's the same way this time. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that one on Halloween, which is nice. And it's maybe that's a tradition I'll do with the next one too, which is Halloween Ends. I think is the last one. But yeah, and we'll see what they do with that franchise too, because it's like with a title like that, it's like, okay, are you literally going to do what Friday the 13th did, which is name 2 movies like this is the end, the final chapter, and the final Friday, and then do more? Or I don't know. I'm sure, like with Scream and all these other ones that are coming back now, and I'm sure Friday the 13th, because they settled, man, I'm just blabbing at this point, sorry. But I know a lot of you guys are like tuning in for the Oscar stuff, and now you're like, what the fuck is he talking? He's going all over the place. But they settled some stuff with the Friday the 13th lawsuit and everything. It looks like Victor Miller won, which I don't know. I didn't follow it that closely, but I was like, I was kind of hoping he wouldn't. And again, I'm not really vested in what happened there, but I don't know. I gave my pitch, if you want to go back to that video, for my version of what the next Friday the 13th movie should be, which is like a Force Awakens style, bring back all the actors, all that stuff. I would love to see that happen, and maybe a version of that will happen, and I'm sure it'll be great. Oh my god, I so want it to happen. I almost wanted to just start shouting from the mountaintops, but yeah, that's not how it works. And plus, it's probably going to be a couple years before we get anything that can actually be like in development for that stuff. It's just going to be a lot of talk in between until they get everything all buttoned down with that. But the point I was getting to with that was all these franchises and stuff, they really want to go back to the reboot every 5-10 years thing. Which, again, I hope they don't do with Bond. Or if you want to do a reboot, make it a soft reboot. Like, again, bring back these the 3 actors we talked about, Wishaw, Harris, and Fiennes. And maybe Lashana Lynch. Maybe she's like a supporting character through a couple of them. Please, pretty please, bring back Ana de Armas. I'd love it. Yeah. I mean, you could almost do, like a version of it or something, but I don't know. It's up to them. It's up to Barbara Broccoli and the rest of the gang there. Yeah. Anyways, but I was talking about something else before that, but I've been on here. I've been blabbing for way too long. Oh, the Batman. Yeah, I was getting to the Batman stuff. Right. And I'll still go see it for sure. But again, I was just really hoping it wasn't going to be a super long movie or anything. But again, I'm a little like, I don't know. Plus, there's like 3 villains in this one, which I'm sure it looks like they're going to do it well. I mean, they're going to have, Penguin's going to have his stuff, Catwoman's going to have her stuff, Riddler's going to have his stuff. Okay, that can work. That can 100% work. I don't just vomit right away like a few other people do, just because of the number of villains. Like, did you see Spider-Man: Homecoming? There's like technically like 12 classic or versions of classic Spider-Man villains in that one, but it was perfect. It's the best MCU film they've done, in my opinion. Anyways, but yeah. Yeah, and then the one though that really impressed me was the Flash. What they're going to do with that and bringing Michael Keaton back, which I'm like, yes, I love Michael Keaton as Batman. He's still as actual Batman. He's the best, I think. As Bruce Wayne, okay, then Christian Bale. I think Christian Bale gets my vote there. But for the actual like Batman, like the one who walks on screen, you're like, that's fucking Batman. It's Michael Keaton. 100%, it's Michael Keaton. And it's funny because I actually went back not too long ago and rewatched Batman Returns here a couple months ago. Yeah, that one, I mean, it's got its moments where you're like, okay, this is a weird movie. But it's a good Batman movie, I still think. I mean, the villains do interesting stuff. Michael Keaton as Batman is great. He's not afraid to kill people, which I like. I don't know. Everybody has their version of Batman and stuff. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to him coming back. Maybe even as we kind of get glimpses of in the movie there. For the trailer rather for the Flash, maybe in the suit, like actually doing some stuff in the suit, that would be really nice. And just the moment there in the trailer where it kind of cut to black and then you just hear or I can't even do it because I got carpeted floor here, as he's walking down the catwalk, or not catwalk, whatever, down the stairs or whatever. And just the way the ears, the classic Burton ears come up, I'm like, oh my god, yes, give this to me now. I'm kind of off the DC train right now, just because so many of their films have not worked for me in the past. I don't know, but then I looked at all the stuff and it's like, okay, well, I didn't see Aquaman, so I don't really care about that one. But the Shazam sequel, I'll see that. I like the first Shazam a lot. I'll see the Flash. I'll see Batman, but I don't know, and I'll see Wonder Woman eventually when it comes out, but because even that second one I still liked. It was fine. I think I talked about it briefly once before, but really glad they went all the way with it. That they didn't like try to keep it like dark like today's sensibilities, almost like the first one did. They went all the way with, okay, we're going to be like if this movie actually came out in the time frame that we're setting it in, which is mid '80s. We're going to go all the way. I appreciated that they didn't pull their punches with that, which is definitely what a lot of other filmmakers would have done. So, yeah. Okay, again, I've been blabbing here for a while, but the point was, yeah, and I'm still not sure where I come down on this score. I don't know. You know what? With the performances from especially Ana de Armas and Daniel Craig and everything, and I have to admit, yeah, I wasn't bawling at the end. I didn't actually cry, but I kind of teared up at a couple moments toward the end there. Yeah, I gotta give it an 8. I gotta go there. But it's like barely an 8. It's like really, closer to a 7. But there's just enough stuff that I liked to give it an 8. But yeah.